Hi, my name is Garret. I work at Forest Silent Software, and the topic I wanted to talk about with you, I actually honestly hope that most of all of you will be saying boring. I already know that stuff, and we actually use it on our app. But in my experience, a lot of the web apps actually don't use progressive web app capabilities for the app yet, and I hope it will be more after this talk. So, what are progressive web apps? It's actually a couple of concepts that try to narrow down the differences between web apps and native apps. So, one example is you can make your web app installable, so that you have an dedicated icon on your home screen on your phone, or even like on a desktop computer, you have it in your dock, in your task switcher, and you don't have to always just open your browser and type in a URL or search your bookmarks for apps that you use quite often. And the second one is it allows you to make your app offline capable. So with native apps, I pretty much bet that almost none of the native apps that you use, when you're offline or in flight mode and you open them, you probably never see like just a white screen. You at least see the app UI, and the API calls might not work, and you might see like a warning or an error, but you at least have the UI. But with web apps, most of the time, what you will see is like a blank screen and nothing else. So one of the examples that I realized yesterday. So when I came down here in this venue, and it's underground, and there's a lot of like a few meters concrete all around you. And after the first talk, I wanted to check what will be the next talk. So I wanted to open the schedule. Didn't work because I missed the slide that told you the Wi-Fi password. And what do you do as an Ember developer that is too shy to just ask your neighbor if they know the Wi-Fi password? You run Ember new and create a new app that hopefully solves the problem. So that's what I did. So maybe a little demo. Hope it works. So this is the schedule. So yeah, basically copied the JSON files that were in the original, like the website, and parsed it, create a little UI for it. There's sorry, can't see my mouse. There it is. So it's the 2 days and all the info that you have. And I don't know if you ever saw this icon up here. So this one actually allows you to install the app. And when I do that, you get a nice like separate window with a themed UI, and also like you see there's the icon in the task switcher. So now I have a separate app for that. And for mobile, I only have a few screenshots. So this is on an iPhone. When you open the app, you also see that like the top bar is themed. And then for an iPhone, it's a little bit hidden. So you go here, then there's add to home screen, and that gives you the nice little icon here. And then when I click that one and open that one, and if you see here, I opened that one while in flight mode, and it still opened the app, and you have to schedule. So what do you need to add progressive web capabilities to your app? So first, the requirement is your app has to be served via HTTPS, which hopefully is a given for all of your apps. And as I just learned 5 minutes ago, it's also possible to do that locally, which is pretty nice, really great. Today I learned. Then you have to have a web manifest, which I talk about right after this, and a service worker. So the web manifest is basically just like a simple JSON file which has some meta tags, and it should be served with a content type, application manifest JSON. If you don't do that, you might have a JSON ending, and then it might work also with application JSON, but there's no error messages if you don't do the right content type, and it's a gotcha that some of the people stumble over and don't know why don't I see the install button yet? Why doesn't it work? So that might be one of the reasons. And then here's an example of some of the meta text. There's more, but this is more or less like the minimum that you will have. Like you have the start URL, the name, short name is, for example, on mobile phones, usually like the long one wouldn't fit. So there's a fallback to shorter name, and description might be used in some install dialogues, for example, and then you can define the display mode. There's a few different ones. Standalone is like you have a full screen, you don't see the URL bar anymore and all that stuff. Then you have the theme colors that you saw with that you have in the title bar and stuff like that. And then you have a few icons. There's more that you can define. There can also be device specific, like different ones for Apple, Android, and that stuff. And yeah, for example, the maskable one at the bottom, that's for Android because it might create like a round icon or other shapes. There's also an Ember Addon to generate all that, and it gives you a little bit more because, of course, you can just like create one of those like static files as a JSON, but this one also creates a little bit more like title bars that are Apple specific and some for Windows. You have like tile color and all that stuff. So that might be one to look into. And the second one, the service worker, is for making your app offline capable. So these are special types of web workers that can intercept the API or fetch calls and proxy over it. Then you can cache your assets and then serve them directly from the cache. So there's an actual like specific cache API that's also in the service worker API that you can use. And then in your index HTML, you can check if your browser supports service worker and then register it. And for making your app installable, you can actually just use, but it's a requirement to have a service worker, but you can actually have like an empty file, and that's already enough to make it installable. Of course, then it's not offline capable. And there is two add-ons that you can use with Ember. So the first one is an Ember add-on that works with the classic build pipeline, Broccoli-based. Unfortunately, it's not maintained or it doesn't seem to be maintained anymore, even like the documentation side is offline. And it doesn't work with Embroider. So that's where you can use the second one. It's an Ember CLI deploy plugin. And what they both do pretty much similarly is during like the build or deployment process, it actually checks all your assets, gets the list, and creates a service worker for that. And so next time you load the app with that service worker and it gets installed, it gets all those assets that are in the list and puts them in the cache. So when you might be offline, then it serves them from the cache. Or what also is pretty good about this is the example that Tomek gave today with where you have to, or where you said you should be look into how you split up your routes, because it might happen that when you while using the app and you might click a route and that you might have a delay because it has to fetch those assets. In his example, for example, on the login page, the service worker would already cache all those assets. So at the time when you later use the app, they will be coming straight from the cache already. So that mitigates this problem a little bit. So so these are like really basic solutions. If you need more power and maybe even like cache your actual API calls and stuff like that, you might want to look into Workbox, which is a bigger project from Chrome developers, and this gives you a lot of power, and you can like do a lot of stuff with it. It's quite complex, but helps you with a lot of like the caching stuff and custom solutions. Then there's a little bit more that you can also have with the manifest. Like, for example, you can have custom protocol handlers. So you have links. They always have to, for security reasons, start with web, but then you can define your own protocol and then give links to those and directly deep link into your app, and your router can handle those and directly put the user not just on the start page, but deep link into the app. Then there's APIs for having install prompts. So for example, as you saw, like the icons are pretty hidden, so normal users might not find them. So it should be a little bit like intelligent, not just like the first time they open the app, just bombard them with like, hey, want to install the app? Because no, I might not just only check the schedule once and never ever again. Why would I want to install the app? But if you, for example, have users that are logged in and use the app a couple of times, you might want to like offer them the possibility to install the app, so it's easier to open it the next time. And then I also like as I said, the service worker is like pretty powerful. You can have background fetching, for example, like API calls, or for example, like a podcast app could fetch the next episodes and stuff like that. There's a lot of like stuff that's worth looking into. So if you want to look more into that, there's like nice resources like the web.dev, if you don't know that one, that has like a lot of documentation that's really good. And there's a PWA builder.com, which is a service that helps you with like generating the stuff and also submitting your apps into, for example, the Microsoft App Store. I think Android Play Store also has a way you can actually submit your apps to the App Store. So it's, yeah, people can actually find your apps there as well. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Woo!